if you want people to do something, you've got to integrate it into the core business processes. So you can think of it this way. It's not about convincing your team to try AI. It's about redesigning workflows so AI just naturally enhances what they already do.
Today, I'm very excited to be joined by Laren Schiavone. If you don't know who Laren is, she's the founder of Wonder Consulting, a business designed to help non-technical leaders thrive in an AI-driven future. She previously led product marketing and e-commerce initiatives for Procter & Gamble. Laren, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
I am very good, and I'm excited to have you here today. Laren and I are going to explore how to move from simply experimenting with AI, which happens so much inside of businesses today, to actually integrating it into your processes across the entire business. Now, before we get into this, I would love to hear your story. Like, how in the world did you get into AI? Start wherever you want to start.
Awesome. Yeah. And Mike, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. So until this past year and a half, I actually spent my entire professional career at Procter & Gamble. I did that working on some of the largest, biggest brands and some of the largest retailers. And I had the opportunity to spend an incredible 16 years there.
Wow.
I started at P&G and consumer insights. Then I moved into brand management. And finally, my interest in e-commerce is what took me to sales in my final chapter there. At P&G, I spent a lot of time working on product innovation, retail innovation, and driving transformation and change across the enterprise. And in doing so, that's really where I developed my passion for leveraging innovation to drive business growth. And last year, I made a very personal decision to leave P&G. I have 2 young children, and frankly, I just wanted to do something more flexible so I could spend a little bit more time with them. And in this time away from P&G, I finally had a moment to lift my head up from the corporate world. And when I did, it became very, very clear to me. AI isn't just poised to revolutionize marketing and sales. It's going to disrupt everything, right? Though every industry, the way we live our lives, certainly the way we work. So I was super inspired and energized by the possibilities of AI. So I really decided to dive in and immerse myself in understanding AI and how it can be a growth driver. And as I upskilled, it was interesting because I reflected on my time at P&G and I just had this real aha moment. If I had these tools back then, I could have streamlined low value tasks, spent more energy on strategic work that really excited me, and ultimately have more time for the work and people that inspire and energize me. So after understanding the possibilities, I decided I really wanted to empower other non-technical leaders to harness this power of AI in practical, actionable ways. So this past summer, I decided to combine my 16 years of experience of leading business growth and innovation at P&G together with my industry-leading AI education, which of course is ongoing every day, to form Wonder Consulting. And with Wonder Consulting, my goal is to empower leaders to thrive in the AI-driven future and leverage the power of AI to accelerate business growth. And I'm really committed to demystifying AI to make it practical and actionable for non-technical leaders to harness it for growth.
Awesome. So taking me back to P&G, some of the brands that you worked with, would people know? I mean, I would imagine. Can you name some of the products?
Definitely.
And then also share what it meant to be like responsible for innovation inside of a company like that.
Yeah. So I spent a lot of time in my early career on Olay and Venus, which is the sister brand to Gillette. And I spent a lot of time on Swiffer and Mr. Clean. That's where I did a lot of my time on innovation. And innovation really is the lifeblood at P&G and what really drives and grows a brand over time. And it's a really important role because you are really trying to deeply understand the consumers, the unmet needs, and pair that with an unmet need sort of in the category to accelerate not just brand growth, but also category growth.
So does that mean that you're essentially coming up with ideas for new products? I mean, is that kind of like an R&D department, for lack of better words?
Yeah, so certainly there's an R&D component of it, but there's a very commercial component because R&D is sort of responsible for the technology component of a new product, but the commercial leaders, brand, insights, sales, et cetera, sort of responsible for commercializing that idea to make sure it's an idea sort of that's right for the consumers, that has the right communication, the right sell-in story, the right copy and media plan, all of those things.
And was AI at all part of your experience there? I mean, just because I know that sometimes big businesses have access to a lot of technology that the smaller
Yeah.
businesses don't have yet, you know?
Yeah, it's a great question. When I left P&G of August of 23, and at that time, not really. Um, it was still arguably those are still kind of some of the early days of AI, particularly Gen AI.
Right.
So no, not at that time, or not that I was aware of. But now, obviously, I know things have sort of progressed, and certainly they are using it across some use cases.
So today, what you're doing is you're taking your background and experience with um, process, for lack of better words, right, and innovation, and you're helping businesses essentially like expand a little bit more on kind of the practical, tactical of what you're doing for your clients today.
Yeah. So, a key part of what I do is really helping organizations understand how to drive AI transformation. So, I sort of leverage this five-step approach of assess their current state, establish your goals, your AI councils, et cetera. An experiment, you get to experiment with all your different pilots in a really thoughtful way. Then scale. So, scale what's working. Then finally, adopt. And adopt is all about how do you future proof both your organization and your business. And so that's a sort of the core of the work that I do. And in addition to that, I spend a lot of time upskilling leaders in the areas that I spent a lot of time in my career. So, for example, AI for marketing, or AI for consumer insights, or AI for sales.
Very cool. Okay, so all that background, and there's a lot, folks, there's a lot of wisdom that's about to come our way here in just a few seconds. But the question that I have for you now is, why should anyone listening today, the businesses that are listening today, why should they integrate AI into their existing systems and processes? Because I'm sure a lot of them are not even seeing an application there.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think oftentimes AI has a reputation of being a productivity tool, and certainly it can be that. But if you are truly leveraging and harnessing the power of AI, AI can be a growth accelerator, and we all want to grow and accelerate our business. So if you reframe it like that, if you want to grow and accelerate your business, AI is a great way to do that. And the companies that do that the best way, I truly believe, will leapfrog the ones that do not.
So, and how does that connect to systems and processes when it comes to AI? Just connect those dots for me.
Yeah, definitely. Because to get to AI really being a growth accelerator, or really to get to that AI transformation, you've got to move from what I call random acts of AI into true integration into business processes, because that is when and where the transformation occurs.
And what does it make possible?
It makes possible um, truly one, people using AI day to day and leveraging AI to really accelerate business critical work versus sort of maybe just nice to have work. And with that, it allows you to begin to think about how you can have AI be a growth accelerator. So maybe for you, that's getting to innovation faster. Maybe for you, that's getting to bigger and better creative ideas, because you're not spending time on tedious tasks. So it's going to look different for everyone, but essentially, if you can integrate AI into your business processes, that's sort of the foundation in which you can start to accelerate AI.
And I fundamentally 100% am on board with this. I have recently, within the last about month or so, trained all of my employees on how to leverage AI, set a new company-wide expectation that they use AI to improve their work consistently. Even have expected my leadership team to report to me on how they're using AI, what they're learning from it, and also all the people that report to them, reporting up to them, because I believe that AI allows average workers to become excellent workers. And I believe AI allows excellent workers to become super workers, right? And I believe that when all that happens, and I can kind of see the path, right? I kind of see all the possibilities now with the team you have. You can accomplish so much more, right? Where in the past you had to go outside and hire more people. Now you can actually take the people that you have and you can radically do a lot more. I mean, have you found this to be true as well?
Definitely. Like that's the amazing part about it in some ways is all of a sudden, you don't need to necessarily hire a multifunctional team. You can leverage AI to do a lot of that. And I think it's incredible that you've sort of started that culture within your organization because that is one of the critical important steps for making this work.
Excellent. Okay, so let's start with the basics. Like, what is it that we need to be thinking about when it comes to employing AI into our company-wide systems and processes? Where do we start?
Yeah, definitely. So, like you said, many companies have taken their first steps on their AI journey. So maybe that's doing some upskilling or giving employees access to ChatGPT. And certainly they've started to experiment. And look, that's really great progress, right? You've got to get started somewhere. And the companies who have started are far ahead of the ones who haven't. And many companies have started to do a lot of experimentation. And again, experimentation is great. It's a great way to learn, become comfortable with AI. But here's the problem. Okay. Oftentimes I see companies stuck in what I call experimentation land. They are doing a lot of experiments, but they are struggling to scale AI and drive real adoption, which significantly limits the potential of AI to drive transformation. So, how do we solve this, right? For AI transformation to truly occur, as we said, we need to move from random acts AI to true integration into business processes. And we know that when AI is fully integrated into workflows, it shifts from being sort of another tool or an interesting experiment into a core enabler of business growth. Um, and so, why is this so important? Well, I learned this firsthand at P&G, where I spent a lot of time driving organizational change. And the number one lesson I learned is if you want people to do something, you've got to integrate it into the core business processes. So you can think of it this way. It's not about convincing your team to try AI. It's about redesigning workflows so AI just naturally enhances what they already do.
Hmm.
Because when AI is built into standard processes, that's when you will see real adoption and transformation. And the organizations that are successfully scaling AI understand this. They're redesigning their processes with AI at the core and some from the ground up. The goal, right, isn't to have people using AI, it's to make AI simply part of the way your organization works.
Yeah, when we were prepping for this, one of the things you talked about was to identify a lot of the repeatable processes. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. But before we get to that, I'm going to just take us sort of one step back because I think one other thing has to be in place before sort of you identify the right use cases. So first, we need to check the health of your AI council. Without a healthy, well-functioning AI council, it's going to be very difficult to scale AI.
Most people don't even have that. So why don't you just describe that real
Oh,
quick?
yeah. Oh, definitely. So an AI council is an organization of folks who are essentially responsible for driving the AI transformation across their company. The core set of people that try to set up what are the goals of AI integration, maybe what the pilots are, what the roadmap looks like, what the policies are. So that core group of people. And
Mhm.
it's interesting you said that, Mike. I think in my experience, I found sort of like people are establishing AI councils, sort of like checking the box,
Yeah.
right? And it's become a bit of a check the box exercise, unfortunately, which means the work of the AI council is really becoming quite stalled at many organizations or really struggling to gain momentum. And so if this is sort of sounds like you or it's happening to you, or if you don't even have an AI council just yet, I actually created what I'm calling an AI health checklist to diagnose and address these challenges to make sure you've addressed these pitfalls because, like I said, the AI council really is the foundation here. On an AI council, you've got to get the right people in the room. If your AI council is filled with only senior leaders, you can expect lots of strategic dialogue, but not much action. You've
Mm.
got to balance the team with action oriented contributors. Maybe that's mid level managers or practitioners who can actually own experiments, drive progress, and really get shit done. Then, of course, have 1 to 2 senior leaders that can serve as sponsors, executive sponsors that can provide guidance, clear break down barriers and ensure, of course, there's alignment to business goals. The next couple might seem obvious, but they're just not happening. You've got to make it a priority. If you've got folks on these councils and it's treated like an extracurricular activity, you can expect minimal progress. It needs to be a key part of each member's work plan, it needs to tie to their performance goals, It needs to be supported by their managers. Leaders who are going to prioritize this work are going to see a lot more success. You also have to provide adequate resources to this group, right?
Mhm.
Too often, AI councils are expected to deliver results without having the necessary tools, budgets, or support. And finally, and this one does sound super obvious and simple, but it's not always happening. There needs to be a regular cadence of meetings. Right, you'll see meetings sort of pushed off because someone's traveling or there's scheduling conflicts or other distractions. And before you know it, 6 months has passed with, no forward movement. We know that's not okay because at the pace of AI, 6 months is simply too long. It's
That's
not
like 2 years in
I
then,
yeah, see, exactly.
Yeah.
Just like you've got to be connecting and making sure that the work is moving forward. So, if you haven't started one yet, or if you're feeling like, hey, my counsel sort of stalled out, there's two pieces of advice I like to give, and Mike would welcome sort of your advice as well. First, narrow the scope. So enterprise-wide councils, right? They can get bogged down in politics, red tape, etc. So the advice I like to give and I give this to every marketing leader, is simply create your own AI council for either your team or your function specific. You can focus on what you can control. You can run your own experiments. You don't have to wait for the entire company to align or catch up. Just take the lead, run, create momentum, and let the others follow and show them lead by showing them what's possible. And then the second is consider getting some outside help. So, certainly, this might sound like self promotion, but I just have seen when an external voice can kind of come in as an unbiased person who's not afraid to speak transparently to a group of leaders, it can just really drive a sense of urgency, hold folks accountable, and again, make an AI council that's sort of stuck, move them into making a lot of progress.
Yeah. And for the smaller businesses that are listening, in our case, it was just me and two other employees in the company. And I believe everyone was on my leadership team of 8. But some of the leaders on there were like in the trench, kind of practical, tactical product division heads. And we moved pretty quick because I, as the CEO, was very motivated, right? And that's where what Lauren's talking about. If you can get someone at the top that's very motivated, then you can move mountains, because we did move mountains. And sometimes that can be a real headache if you're dealing with upward resistance. So
Yeah.
assuming that the people that are
Yep.
listening right now have the ear of whoever's important inside the business, or are that person like me or you, where they head up their own business, and what's next?
Yep. So then we want to get to what are the right use cases, or what are the right work processes that we want to prioritize. The first thing that I always like to do is just sort of spend some time brainstorming what are your key work processes, right? What are the things that you do to deliver your business or deliver the things that your clients need, your customers or your consumer needs. And after you've done that, you're going to want to ask two important questions. First, is the work process repeatable and completed regularly? So you want to focus tasks that occur frequently versus sort of one-off tasks. Those are not ideal starting points. And then the second question you want to ask yourself is the work process business critical? So the process should directly impact the organization's ability to deliver results and drive growth. AI needs to be seen as an enabler of your top priorities and not a distraction from them. So, experimenting in areas that aren't business critical often lead to stalled efforts because they don't resonate with your leadership or drive meaningful outcomes. Once you've gone through those two questions, and you sort of have a more narrow list of use cases or work processes, then I like to prioritize them on what I call a prioritization matrix, and it has two axes. So on the y-axis, think about how much you dislike doing the tasks, and these can be things that are often repetitive or time-consuming that drain your energy and maybe team morale. And then on the x-axis, think about what is the potential impact. So evaluate the task's potential to save time, reduce costs, or drive business outcomes if AI could help you do that task. When you
Uh,
do this, yeah,
yeah, a
go ahead.
couple quick questions.
Here.
The XY axis, right? Dislike doing the task, and the impact, right? So can you give an example, even if it's generic, of something you've done for your business or done for another business, just so people can, in their mind, understand what kind of task might be a good candidate for AI?
Yeah, I think a great one is writing business proposals. So when, a client comes to you and sort of wants to partner with you and sort of gives you a bit of a brief, turning that into proposal back to the client for them to agree to. So that's a process that hopefully is happening pretty often. It's a process that is time consuming and, really nobody likes to do. And if you could improve it with AI, not only would you save time, but hopefully you could get more yeses in that process. So proposal writing is certainly one of them. I can also share a couple other. I think another great one is creating brand content. Now, you might sort of vary how based on which type of brand content it is, how much you dislike it. But brand content is something that is being drafted all the time, and oftentimes it takes a lot of time and energy to make sure that content is really written in the brand's tone of voice. So one of the things that I like to do is a brand tone of voice analysis and take that analysis, put it into custom GPT, and then that custom GPT can help me very quickly get to content that's written in the brand voice. And then I think I shared this with you, Mike, previously, but one I like to use in my own business is helps me with contract reviewing. So when I left P&G, I had to sort of learn all these new skills I didn't have before. And one of those skills was reviewing contracts. And so I leveraged ChatGPT. Now I've created a custom GPT to help me review my contracts, to help me understand what are areas where I should be concerned. Helps explain to me in high school language why I should be concerned, and then it offers up language that I should suggest it be instead. And this, of course, ChatGPT is not a lawyer. You want to consult your lawyer, but it does save me a lot of time and energy when I do enroll my lawyer.
Okay, so here's what we've talked about so far. First of all, we've talked about how, hey, if you don't have an AI council or a committee, put one together and, really a cross-functional, ideally kind of role where it's a bunch of people kind of running a point on a project like this, and then ultimately begin identifying mission critical parts of the business that are repeatable. For example, if you run an agency or consultancy and you're regularly writing proposals, that's a great example of it, right? And it's maybe something you're not really loving, but you know that it's going to have a big impact, right? So once we've identified these repeatable, mission important projects slash processes, what's the next thing we need to do?
Yeah. So 2 additional filters you're going to want to sort of take to help you prioritize is first understand where can AI actually help. So it's possible in some of these use cases, maybe a tool like ChatGPT isn't going to necessarily be able to help you a lot. And if you're not sure if AI can help you or not, it's a great exercise to sort of put that process into ChatGPT and simply just ask it, right? How can you, ChatGPT, help improve this process? And then the last thing you want to think about is consider the human element. You want people to lead these experiments who are passionate about driving change. So you might have 2 processes that fall in the top right quadrant, and one falls in a department that's resistant to change, and another is in a team that's eager to innovate. So I would start with the team that's eager to innovate so they can build momentum across the organization.
And really, I think what we're doing here is we're looking for a case study almost, right? That we're going to ultimately use across the entire company, right?
Yep.
So once we've identified that team, person, people, and process, what comes next?
Yep, great question. So the next step is to move from ideation to experimentation. And this means running focus experiments that prove AI's potential impact and, to your point, can deliver those quick wins to build momentum. And it's really important to have the right mindset when it comes to experimentation, because these aren't casual experiments, right? They're strategic pilots to make sure that we are delivering value. And I see that many organizations are not always approaching experimentation in the right way. Of course, would love your thoughts there, Mike. But here's a couple of tips for designing good pilots. So first, set clear success criteria for your pilot. Maybe that's time saved or accuracy improvements or increased closure rates. Having these measurable outcomes ensures that you're objectively evaluating the experiment success. You want that criteria to be specific and measurable. And you really want to make sure that you're understanding the baseline for the work process that you're trying to measure. So ultimately you can understand ROI, because that's going to be a big important part as you work to do broader selling, which we'll talk about. Next, you'll want to assign a dedicated owner for the pilot, right? Someone who's passionate about the project and has the ability to drive it forward. And you're going to want to make sure that you are giving this person what they need, whether that's a team, whether that's tools, whether that's training, funding, and of course, the support that they need to prioritize it within the broader work they might be doing. You're also going to want an executive leader, someone in the C-suite perhaps, who can serve as that pilot sponsor. Their job, right, is to advocate for the pilot, remove any roadblocks, and really make sure that they're helping to communicate the results to the shareholders or stakeholders. And ideally, this person can make the go, no-go decision on expanding the pilot. And then I like to make sure that a pilot is up and running within 30 days. And that's because, too many organizations get stuck in planning mode, trying to just create the perfect pilot. And it's just important to remember progress over perfection, right? Move fast and learn. You can pivot as you learn more and more. And to that point, you want to monitor pilots closely. Do not let them run on autopilot. You're going to want to gather feedback, what's working, what's not working, what are the benefits, challenges, and you're going to want to use those insights to iterate your approach. Don't wait to the end of the experiment, to start thinking about those things and doing those things, and let your pilot run for 90 days. That should be long enough to demonstrate results. But throughout those 90 days, make sure you're optimizing it as you go.
Okay. I love how operationally minded you are. I know that I've got a lot of creatives and marketers that listen to this podcast. So they're potentially going to struggle with how to come up with the key performance indicators, and how to actually track it, right? Because it seems very ethereal when you're using AI to create something, right? So can you kind of talk to me a little bit about give some wisdom on how to come up with what clear success looks like, because it can be so nebulous and abstract, but it needs to be clear if it's going to be communicated to someone higher up inside the organization, right?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think the best place to start, even if you're a creative or a non-operational person, you still at the end of the day have, expected deliverables in your role, whether that's creative quality or, delivering things on time. So first and foremost, just think about what are the measures that day to day you hold yourself responsible for, because in theory, those are the, critical business measures. And could AI help with one of those? Could it help you, get the work done faster? Could it help you close more sales? Right? Whatever the measures that day to day you're accountable for. I also, you bring it like not everyone is good at this. Find someone, with a different skill set. Maybe it's a finance leader, or more of a data person, right? That can just help dialogue with you.
Can't AI also help you figure this stuff out too?
That was the third thing I was going to say. Is and if that fails, just or in parallel, go to ChatGPT. Say, I'm working on this experiment. Act as my advisor, right? Or coach, and help me identify clear, measurable outcomes of whether or not, we can define that this experiment is successful. So yes, absolutely.
Okay, so let's go back to the examples that you talked about, and let's identify just so people can wrap their head around it, what the measurable outcome would be. Let's start with the proposal writing. What would be the thing you would measure?
I think, and I think you're going to see a bit of a theme. So let me just sort of say that. I think as we begin to integrate AI, I think the first easiest measures are going to be productivity efficiency measures.
So how much time did it take you to do it?
Yeah, exactly. Time saving or quantity, right? So maybe you're just cranking out content all the time, or but I think over time you're going to want to see things for example, in the proposal one, you're going to see that your proposals are better and you're getting to more yeses, right? So for example, in the proposal one, I would start with are you getting to a high quality proposal faster, right? But then you also want to look at are you getting to an even higher quality proposal faster that leads to more yeses? Right?
Yeah. So is your close rate higher, for example, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And I think same on tone of voice and a brand tone of voice, right? Maybe you're going to want to start with can we produce faster content, or can we create more content? Always keeping a high standard to that content. And over time, like, is this content closing better? Is this content creating more leads, right? Like the things that are important to your business.
I really love this because you're right that most people, when they think about AI, they think about productivity improvement, right? They think about either they're getting something done more quickly, or they think that they're able to do something they've never been able to do before. So that's like maybe enhancing their skills, right?
Yeah.
And then if you layer in, there's creative side of this too, right? Like, is your output more creative? And maybe there is a way to quantify that. Like if you compare the new proposals to the old proposals,
Yeah.
what would you or a peer say about the quality of the output, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's a way to come up with a scale to measure these kind of things subjectively and just kind of see whether or not people feel like this is better. And even subjectively, are you getting more high fives from your boss? Are you
Yeah.
getting more accolades from them? I mean, these are the kind of things that if you don't kind of think about them in advance, right?
Yeah.
Then when they come, you won't even recognize that that's actually an enhancement, right? That's
Yeah.
coming from what you're doing.
Yeah, you made me think of something on the proposal, right? Like one thing you could do is you could go into ChatGPT and you could say like, hey, like create a scorecard on how well this proposal delivers on
These objectives, yeah.
this client's need. Here are the call notes, right, from our call.
Yeah, there you go.
And you know, it could come up with like some sort of like scorecard, and you could like put in the old proposal, right, or different proposal, and then you could put in like, you know, the AI
enhanced one,
driven one, right, to sort of see, because like one of the things I like to do with ChatGPT is to like be a grader, right, is to evaluate, just like a reminder that like it can create any sort of scorecard or evaluation tool, and it could help you, right, like objectively understand if something is better.
So when you're running a pilot, which is kind of what we're talking about, or an experiment, at what point do you declare that it is no longer an experiment?
So that's a good question. I think so ideally after 90 days, right? Like things go really well, and we could talk about if they don't go well.
We should
After 90
definitely
days,
talk about that too. Yeah, we'll talk
yeah,
about that. Yeah.
Things go well. You've met your very clear success criteria, and then it's about scaling it, and happy to talk through sort of the right way and approach to do that.
Well, and we're going to definitely get into the scaling side of things, but let's just say hypothetically, you crushed your objectives and it's 30 days in. Do you ever advocate just calling it a win, and or instead of waiting for the full 90 days?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Like if it is so obviously meeting your success criteria and making things better, faster, right? Then in some ways there's possibly no reason to wait. Just I think my advice would be is like torture test it a little. Think about sort of maybe the outlier use cases, so you're not thinking about something that like could happen that just hasn't come up in the 30 days.
Yeah. Okay. So there's always going to be situations where the experiment does not fail, because an experiment by its very nature, that's an expected outcome with a lot of experiments. So what do we do if it doesn't work?
Yeah. So experiments can and honestly should, if you're experimenting, you know, as much as you should, that they are going to fail. The best thing to do is to not get discouraged. You've got to view this as a learning opportunity. You're going to want to spend some time assessing the root cause. So things like, was the process chosen not as well suited for AI as you initially thought? Were the tools or data inadequate to deliver the results? Did the team have the necessary resources or training or support? And maybe there were unexpected barriers that arose. You know, what you see is that often it's not the AI capability itself that's the issue. It's how you're approaching it or applying it. So you've got to identify the root cause and assess if it can be fixed and whether or not it's worthwhile to run the experiment again. And if you still believe that there's a significant amount of value in the experiment, don't be afraid to run it again. And then just other piece of advice I'll give you is be incredibly transparent in sharing these learnings back with your leaders. Transparency with leadership, particularly during transformation efforts, is going to accelerate progress. And to your earlier point, Mike, C-suite leadership wants to help. They know that AI is the future. They know they need to get on board. So it might also be something that if you can speak transparency to leadership, they can really help you solve very quickly.
Yeah, and I'll add my thoughts on this. Like we use the experiment methodology throughout almost everything we do inside the company. Everything starts as an experiment. If it fails, it is not a failure on the individual necessarily. There's always an opportunity to learn from it, right?
Yeah.
And if you think about all the greatest technological innovations, they often started as something completely different.
Yeah.
So a lot of what happens with experimenting is you discover something along the way, and that leads to a new experiment, and then ultimately it leads to the output, right? And
Exactly.
that's mission critical that people understand going into that. This is an experiment. It's going to go for this many days. This is what success looks like. And then if it doesn't happen, well, then we can decide to abandon, modify, or try again, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So,
I think
okay. Once we've actually got a couple of successful experiments under our belt with various departments or individuals, what comes next?
so. 3 steps to think about. Step one is understand what I call what needs to be true to deliver scale. So you want to start by identifying what's required to scale the pilot effectively. You want to ask yourself who needs to be aligned, which stakeholders or departments do you need support from, what resources are required, do you need budget, do you need tools, who needs training, right? Which people, which organizations, functions, levels. Are there policy updates needed? Hopefully your AI council has at least drafted a bit of an AI policy. You'll just want to take a look at that and see if you need to make any changes or edits.
Mhm.
And having this clarity will really help you. So then, second, you're going to want to build the case and secure leadership buy-in. So, right, to scale something, it can require alignment and support from broader leadership. And to get leaders on board, you really want to focus on demonstrating the impact of the pilot and the potential value that at scale. So that's where it's really important to do things like show the ROI of the tool. What do we think is possible? And so that's why the baseline metric that we talked about in establishing your experiment is going to be very important. You're going to want to be able to articulate what could be the improvements in time, cost savings, or better outcomes. My next piece of advice is to leverage existing tools as much as possible. So, to move quickly, consider maximizing the capabilities of your existing tools that are already improved. So, for instance, if your organization already has a ChatGPT or enterprise license, focus on how to get the most out of that investment. This really makes it a much easier yes from leadership, while also simplifying training and upskilling. Today, what I see is often organizations are just scratching the surface of what LLMs like ChatGPT can do. So much opportunity here. You
Real
also,
quick, I just want to add something in
yeah,
there, and hopefully you'll remember where you were.
yeah,
We use Asana across our entire corporation,
yeah. Mhm.
and we ran a little pilot with a small part of our operations team to see whether or not the upgraded version of Asana, which has all these AI integrations into it,
Mhm.
were valuable. And we ended up employing it across the entire company.
Yeah,
And there are tools that your company already uses that
yeah,
probably have an upgraded version of it that
yes,
includes AI capabilities. This would be an obvious, logical place to experiment,
yes.
right?
Yeah, that's a great point, and something I always like to talk to companies about in like the assess phase, right? Like, what are the current technologies you're using? Do you understand what are their AI capabilities? Do you understand their AI roadmaps? Right? Because like, there's probably something next too for Asana. So, what is your process to like be ahead of that, right? And also then integrate that into your processes.
Yeah, so I know you were on a roll. I don't remember where you were.
You're good.
I hope you do too.
Oh
But
no,
we
you're
were
good.
talking about scaling, right?
Oh,
So
yeah. So another important part about the scaling or securing leadership buy-in is, making sure you're also developing an AI roadmap that shows your intent sort of how you want to experiment in areas over time. Leaders will want to sort of see the big picture, not just, one experiment. They'll want to sort of see how this one experiment fits into the broader efforts. And then the last step is simply to train, upskill, and optimize, right? You want to make sure that you're documenting how the new process works. You want to make it as simple as possible for folks to learn. Maybe that's telling them very clearly what is the prompt or giving them guides or templates. And of course, you can use AI to help you do those things. The more simple and user friendly, the easier it's going to be for folks to adopt.
what I love about what we've talked about so far is how structured it is. And it's really refreshing to hear that you can take all this experience that you have learned through your experience working at really, really big brands and bring it to allow us to inject, if you will, some innovative new technology like AI into the workforce and into all the things that we do. But I also know that there's another layer here, right, which is culture and accountability and all that kind of stuff. And this is one of the big struggles that I'm finding right now with my team. It's one thing to deploy something like this across the entire company. It's another thing to actually get them to use it.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. And like people often say, like, this is going to be the hardest part, right? Like what's
Right.
called change management, which to me essentially boils down to culture, communication, and accountability. Um, And this is going to your point, be the crux of sort of do you get to transformation or not? A couple things I like to think about it as we think about culture, because I really believe the culture that currently exists in most corporations is not going to be the culture that's going to be successful in an AI driven future.
Mm.
So you've got to let go of your ego, right? The pace of AI advancement just simply means no one can be the expert at everything. And leaders are going to have to let go of the expectation of having all the answers and instead embrace humility and curiosity. We've also got to shift from competition to collaboration. So, right, let's face it, Mike, we can be competitive with our peers at work, and the same is true for our employees. And that approach just isn't going to work for us in the future. Success is going to come when teams openly share their discoveries, learnings, and insights, which is going to build collective intelligence, right? Because you're going to use the tools slightly differently than perhaps I am, based on our own sets of experiences. And then you're going to have to challenge the status quo, right? What got us here is not going to sustain us into the future. So organizations need to act bravely and question everything, assumptions, processes, and really be willing to reinvent themselves in a way that also fosters continuous learning. Like continuous learning, it's got to be a priority. It's got to be embedded into the way organizations operate, right? AI is moving at such a rapid pace. And then the last thing I like to say, and probably most important, is organizations are going and individuals are going to need to adapt what I call an AI first mindset. So this means looking at every task through the lens of how could AI enhance this. Right, this mindset is going to be key to driving habit change. Driving habit change is really hard, but when people start naturally thinking about AI's potential in their daily work, they're just going to discover more opportunities to use it. Mike, any builds for you on culture before we talk a little bit about communication?
No, keep going. I mean,
Okay,
because I'm loving everything you're saying.
awesome. Okay, so let's talk about communication. You're gonna need to have clear, consistent communication as part of this transformation. You're gonna need to be transparent. You want to overly share the work of the AI Council, the vision, the goals, how it ties back to business goals, and the work underway. Transparency is going to build trust and clarity, which is going to make it easier for folks to embrace change. And let's be real, people have real fears and concerns about this work that you're going to want to address. You're going to want to address them often. You're also going to want to celebrate wins, so publicly highlight success stories from teams using AI effectively. Foster knowledge sharing, right? Whether that's, Mike, to your point, in your sort of team meetings or other channels, you just want to be sharing what folks are learning and how they're using AI. And really, you want to make sure that it's a two-way communication, right? It's not just leadership talking to the employees. You want to encourage feedback and questions at every step. The employees are going to need to feel heard in this process, and they're going to be more likely to engage when they feel like they're being heard. Um, any thoughts for you on Mike on communication before we talk accountability?
No, keep going. I'm loving this.
Okay. So the third component sort of change management, as I think about it, is accountability. So throughout my career, I've learned that you can expect to get what you measure and what you reward. So you want to think carefully about how you measure and reward AI integration and transformation within your organization. So for example, you might want to integrate AI into leadership business metrics or scorecards. Integrating AI into key business metrics in which leaders are measured on, right, will hold leaders accountable to driving transformation. My preference for metrics are outcome based, so focused on driving results like cost savings enabled by AI or productivity improvements delivered by AI or even business growth enabled by AI. Um, you might want to start by using what I call activity based metrics like AI tool usage amongst the organization or percent of organization trained. But my advice is to quickly transition into outcome based AI metrics. Um, And that's really because spending time with AI tools does not simply translate to business value. We know that. Your organization could have high usage rates of AI, but struggle to show any meaningful business impact. So, when you hold leaders accountable for outcomes rather than activities, of course, they'll focus on implementing AI in ways that truly matters for your business. But listen, leadership is not the only folks that need to be held accountable. AI accountability cannot just live with leaders or AI champions. It needs to be integrated with all employees. Every employee should have AI related responsibilities in their work plan. You're, of course, going to want to tailor that to their role and their level. And it's going to look like different for every person. Maybe it's personal upskilling and adopting a new AI enhanced process, or maybe leading an experiment, or maybe identifying new areas of AI integration. If only your designated AI person is held accountable, everyone else will view AI as someone else's job, someone else's problem. Trust me, I've seen it too often. Employees will say, oh, AI is his or her problem, or AI is an IT problem. It's not my problem, right? Instead of taking personal ownership for the change. So while it's valuable, of course, to have AI champions or members of the AI council, they need to be enablers of the change, not solely responsible for it. So the level of responsibility, of course, is going to vary by role, but real transformation is going to happen when every person understands their role in moving the organization forward with AI.
Laren, Schiavone, this has been really amazing. There's going to be people that are going to want to connect with you.
Yeah.
What's your preferred social? And then also, if they want to work with you, where do you want to send them?
Yeah, awesome. The best way to connect with me is via LinkedIn. It's Lauren Morgenstein Schiavone. And then, of course, you're always welcome to send me an email to Lauren at Wonder Consulting LLC. If I can be of any assistance to you in your AI journey, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today.
Yeah, thank you.